obviously it's going to be recorded and posted on YouTube. So just so you could be aware of that. Share the airtime. Raise your hand or put your question on the chat box. And then we'll call on you if you raise your hand, and try to frame questions that apply to a larger group or a larger situation. We will pause throughout our presentation as we see questions show up, or allow for times for questions. If you have something you'd like to share, like I said, you could do it through the chat box. And then because we're hosting 3 different meetings back to back, we'll end this session 10 minutes before the hour. If we don't get to your question specifically, or you need to still ask a question or something to us, you're welcome to email any of us. Disclaimer, the information that we're going to share with you today is based on guidance provided by ODE, the Oregon Health Authority, the Governor's Office, and the Beaverton School District leadership. The schedule we shared today is to give you a general idea. It is not, down to the minute, but it's kind of a general framework or structure of what a student's day may look like. It has not been approved by Teaching and Learning, or it's not anything that's finalized. The agenda for today is to kind of give you an idea of what comprehensive distance learning is, and the district refers to it as CDL. Expectations for teaching and learning, schedule for student, and again, this is kind of a hypothetical, and then support that we'll have for parents and families. And again, our biggest priority is the well-being and safety of our incoming students, and especially, again, social emotional for our 6th graders who will be kind of, they work up through elementary school to get to middle school, and then here we are, and this isn't kind of what they had hoped for, but we're going to try to make it as much of an experience, of a middle school experience as possible, knowing again that the priority for the district and for our school is safety, and ensuring that families have guidance and support through communication, and that we engage students in a very, very differently than what happened in the spring, when we kind of, everybody just had to pivot to something very different, and students, teachers, and families were kind of unsure what that should look like, but we have I think a clearer path now.
So at this time, I just want to spend a few short moments to clarify some terms that you have probably heard or read in your district communication, and we will be referring to it today as we deliver our presentation. So CDL is the acronym for Comprehensive Distance Learning, and that's essentially what the model that we will be starting with for your students, starting September 14th through November 13th. That means it is off-site, remote learning full-time. In the spring, you had heard us talking about online learning and such, but that terminology would get confusing because there will be an online school option and other schools and agencies are providing that. So for the district, we are referring to CDL. The next terminology is hybrid. That is a model that we currently we are planning for it, but right now that is postponed as an option given the governor and ODE's recommendations. That's when it's essentially students have the option and the availability to come to school for a few days of the week and then do the learning also at home. So it's both remote learning and in school face-to-face. But at this point, we are not doing any face-to-face at this point until through November 13th. At least that's what we know of as of now. Synchronous learning is when participants, so students and teachers, are engaging live, just like right now. We're presenting live with you, so it's real time. So students will log in. The platform right now is still being decided. We're hoping it'll be something that we're familiar with. So right now, technically, we are leaning to Zoom, but that may not be accurate because of licensure and bandwidth and such. But for example, your child will be able to log in at a certain time, and in a moment we'll share you a tentative schedule that we are looking at for Stoller, so that your child will have routine and know when their teachers will be online with them. And then the last term is asynchronous learning, is what you're familiar with, and that was what was happening at K-12 in our district from March through the end of the school year, where teachers can provide learning through pre-recorded sessions, online discussion that is not live, podcasts, blogs. Students can access the learning at any time. There will be lessons that'll be asynchronous, but as Ms. Gavan will share with you shortly, that there will be a lot more synchronous learning come fall. So what do stakeholders need? As we talk about not only with the guidance from the governor and such, it's important that we think of everybody that's involved so we can provide the best learning experience that we can. We know that spring was new to all of us and it caused a lot of stress and anxiety, but we really feel that this is what we're prioritizing is the learning for your child. So here's what we're planning. Students need a routine. It's really important that your child knows what their day is, especially easing in from summer where everyone's on their schedule, sleeping whenever, sleeping in. We know that's going to be tricky. So having a schedule of when students to be logged in and being engaged is very important. Students, you need feedback, you need reasons to engage, and accountability. So again, it's on our staff to make sure that we are creating engaging lessons, that we are, as a system, connecting to your families if we're not hearing from your child. If they are sleeping in and missing period 1, for example, they will be hearing from us so that we can get them, out of summer session and back into school. Students need to feel connected with their peers and with their teachers. And so it's important that, not the synchronous learning is also an opportunity, not just for the learning, but for they can see their friends. Many families are quarantining still and such. And so kids are not seeing really anybody but their siblings and maybe some family and maybe some neighbors, but otherwise they're not seeing lots of kids. So the synchronous learning provides opportunity for kids to have interactions with their peers. Families, you need ongoing guidance and support and communication. And this is a kickoff to essentially, we are here for you. So as often we feel is needed, we will do these live info sessions. We'll shoot a video every now and then to send some inspiration as we did last spring, but we know that you need some of this face-to-face time with us. And of course, the written communication that is sent out through your email and school messenger. And that's just so that you can read and have it recorded and documented. For our staff, we are prioritizing professional development. It is so important that our staff are ready to go come fall through next school year and be ready to be their best teaching self. And so there are teachers at Stoller who already were very comfortable with Canvas and were already posting lessons and having videos accessible for students before March, but hands on now, everyone was required to use Canvas as a learning platform. So no more Google Classroom. Everyone will be required in the district to do Canvas. We'll talk about training and how you can get those tutorials later as parents and students. Because if you're from elementary, you're transitioning from Seesaw to Canvas. So we'll make sure that we're going to do whatever we can to make you feel comfortable with the platform. And so professional development is going to be ongoing through this entire month. It's volunteer right now because teachers are not on contract, but the 2 weeks of professional development they will have starting late August through September. There will be a lot of opportunities for professional development through teaching and learning department and within our building. And also two-way street, please make sure that you communicate with anything you need. They're going to be here for you. And then lastly, as you transition to some of the scheduling pieces, we're all going to be learners. So even for administration, we are constantly, whenever we have a moment, we're hopping on and learning with teaching and learning so that we can understand Canvas. So when we pop into teachers' classrooms and such next year during synchronous learning, there will be accountability pieces there, but support also so that everyone can really grow and learn. So please continue to be patient and flexible, but we are putting pressure on ourselves as the adults who are providing the education for your children. Ms. Galman, this is turning to you.
Sorry, I forget to unmute myself. We are starting with the foundation that all learners are comprehensive distance learners. Comprehensive distance learning means that lessons and units of lessons are posted in Canvas, and we'll talk about Canvas in a little bit. The collection of lessons in Canvas will support both synchronous and asynchronous learning. Canvas is a platform we'll use to post everything on and where teachers will deliver lessons. Students will have a schedule that supports their learning throughout all 5 days of the school week. If conditions permit a return to campus, we will implement a hybrid learning model, knowing that still Canvas will be the main platform. We would like to design a comprehensive distance learning model that will remain viable when hybrid learning is implemented, but questions about staffing, enrollment, and potential changes due to contractual obligations make it challenging for us to be certain of that. So it's hard to share that piece right now. Was there a slide before this one, Mr. Swick? A daily schedule will support daily courses in humanities, and humanities at the middle school level means it's a class, and it offers both. It's kind of divided into social studies and language arts. So it's one teacher, and they teach both of those classes. Humanities, math, and science. Students will enroll in PE or health and another Encore class. And Encore classes is the equivalent of at the elementary level specials. The frequency that electives or Encore classes meet may vary from school to school or student to student. Students will have synchronous learning sessions, and students with IEPs may have synchronous learning strats classes. That's the support that students on IEPs get.
I'm just going to chime in really fast, Ms. Galvan, just to give an update to our participants. We are maxed out at 300 participants right now. So if you have neighbors or family and friends or anybody texting you and saying, I can't get in, we are at capacity. So if your family is on more than one device, we'd ask that maybe you can combine to one. But just so you know, it's not like I'm not trying to admit anyone, but we are full capacity right now.
And let them assure them that this will be uploaded to YouTube, so we'll get that information out to them.
All right, so this is the schedule that we're working with. And like we said, there's a couple different schedule variations that teaching and learning is looking at. And so we haven't got the full approval right now, but it's gonna look something similar to what you have here. And keep in mind that when it says math, science, humanities, all those health, PE, all those are interchangeable. So it could be 10 to 11 science or humanities. But this is what we're thinking. So from 9:15 to 10, that's gonna be a time for individual work time, interventions for teachers to do, student and family engagement activities where teachers are calling families or students that they're meeting with that may need some extra support. And that's just a time where students can get caught up and do their work, wake up, start the school day, and get help if they need it. For students served by special education, specially designed instruction may be provided during that time. Wednesdays will be a time where that might be that support might be provided as well. Same with ELL, English language learners. But throughout the day on a Monday, students maybe could start their day at 10 a.m. or 10 a.m. with math. They have lunch. The reason lunch is from 11 and 12 is that because that's when our district's providing lunch pickup for grab and go lunches for students who need a lunch or need fed. That's the window the district asked us all to keep open for that purpose. And an IEP is a individual education plans for students on special education. And so as we go through on Monday, math in the morning followed by lunch. There's a 2-hour gap for lunch. Some of the activities that might fit in between 12 and 1 might be giving parents a time to hop on a Zoom call in a meeting if they have their own work that they're going to have to manage during this, as we all do. It might be an opportunity for advisory class where students meet with their math their first period teacher, if that's math, science, or humanities. They'll meet with their first period teacher and just kind of talk about how it's going, do more personal connections with the school, with each other. Maybe some exciting things that happen in advisory when we're in the building are things like door decoration contests or fundraisers that they compete against other grade levels and that kind of thing. And so we might try to make that just a personal connection time. And so these times on the left are just samples at this point. It's not solidified. It'll be something similar. But there might be a couple tweaks, like I said. So, and then on Monday, health and PE would end the day in this schedule. And then for the health curriculum, Monday and Thursdays might be more, health curriculum might be more what they do on Monday and Thursday in the actual synchronous class, whereas that time on Wednesday you see where it says PE fitness activity, it might be the time where they're working on the PE learning targets, where they're setting a goal for themselves. Maybe they're going for a run, maybe they're trying to do some push-ups and create goals for themselves and that kind of thing, where they track their progress, they track what their plan is, and they kind of learn those skills that are in the PE learning targets during that time. SEL work is a term that that isn't on the terms to know, but it's a term our district's using a lot for what's called social emotional learning. So social emotional learning is just an opportunity for kids to work on developing their ability to communicate about their emotions, their ability to work in a team, their ability to just feel connected and be supported. And so that's just a time where we really want students to have a time where they're that's set aside to really focus on that kind of thing. And so there could be assignments that the counselors put out. That might be another time where advisory meets and works with a group, and they do more targeted lessons via advisory, just to take care of students. And so that's really what we want to do. Is we know that students who feel connected and taken care of learn better. And so we really want to make sure that kids feel connected and they feel cared for, and they feel like, even though we're starting online and I don't have my teacher that's going to be there every day, that I know someone's in my corner and cares for me at Stoller. So on Wednesday, continued asynchronous learning. There is going to be some asynchronous learning. That might be an opportunity where a teacher assigns an assignment and sends that out, and students meet in small groups and do a project together. That might be a time to do Wednesday afternoon. Silent sustained reading and goal setting for reading. When humanities was 2 hours long last year, for us, we shortened that. And so in the silent sustained reading, the readings workshop, their kids set goal for reading. They set goals for number of pages they read, they set goals for comprehension, that kind of thing. And so instead of having that done through the humanities class, that's something the humanities class can assign for Wednesday as well. And so, like I said, those are all just samples of what it could look like. Wednesday, there might not be as much synchronous learning on Wednesday. There won't be as much synchronous learning on Wednesday. And so that might be a schedule that's a little more flexible based on your family need. And so, yeah, so that's the schedule. I'll leave it up for a couple. There's might be a good pause point to look at the questions, Ms. Galvan.
Yeah, it's a good time. How does tag testing work this week? I wrote that down. I mean, this year. That's something that is scheduled and kind of comes from the district. So I'll forward that question on and get that information to you. And you already answered the IEP question. Does this schedule work for our SUMA program as well? Yes, it does. And cell work, Mr. Swick already described that. How the students will be grouped and how will it be for SUMA students? The grouping will come based on cohorts and being able to track them. And I know that's a lot of the logistics work that transportation is doing. So once they kind of tell us a little bit more around how they're cohorting students, then we'll know how to place them to make sure that they stay in the same cohort.
Can I jump in there?
Yes, jump in.
So for the hybrid model, we talked a lot about CDL, but November 13th, as we said, if health numbers and COVID numbers are where the governor wants them to be and where we all think it's safe to start coming back to school, we're going to start what's called a hybrid model. And with the hybrid model, the great thing about some of our plans is that we set it up where the period of the day, the timing might change a little bit for students. It might be 72-minute periods versus 60-minute periods, that kind of thing. That might change a little bit. But as far as the period of the day that they connect with that teacher stays the same. So if they have math from 10 to 11, that we would call that first period. When they come to a hybrid model, they would have math Monday and Tuesday for one group of kids from 10 to 11. And then a second group of kids that were the same group of CDL that was split in half would come to school on Thursday, Friday. And so our plan is set up in a way where we're trying to keep cohorts together, where if you start the year with a math class, that's the math class you stay in the rest of the year, regardless of CDL or hybrid. One thing with hybrid that we'll address a little bit more later as well is even though students will have the opportunity to come back, at this point we're planning November 16th, I think is the date, that Monday. If that's a possibility, the online learning and Canvas will still be the engine that we push out the curriculum through. It's not going to be something where you are required to come back if you feel uncomfortable to on that November 16th date. You still want to stay in the comprehensive distance learning. We'll be set up to continue to support comprehensive distance learning, even if we move to a hybrid. And if you want to come into the building because you need that social connection, or you need to see someone face to face and just have that, you know, I have these questions and I just don't want to do it online anymore, and I want to be in the building to talk to my teacher, the hybrid model's there to support those students.
And I'm seeing a lot of questions. I think some of them are from students around, you know, will they be able to see if they're in one, like the SUMA, will they still be able to see their the friends who are not in SUMA, and then what are electives, and all of that stuff. And I want families to hear this, your parents to hear this, and you to know that this session was mainly geared for the families for a big overall info session, but we're going to have sessions for you as sixth graders that'll describe a little bit more of the terminology we use at the middle school, and kind of guide you through electives, or Encore as we call them, specials they call them at the elementary level. So we'll get to all of that. This won't be the only support we offer our sixth graders. Please know that. We'll have smaller chunks of sessions. Sorry, somebody's. Okay, thanks. We'll have more support for our incoming sixth graders. That's you, because we realize that this is a very different way that they wanted to start middle school. So save your questions. If we don't answer them this time, know that we'll have another opportunity for you to ask those questions. Let me see. Can you please let few? Yeah, we said we can't let people in because Zoom doesn't allow that. We cap out at 300. Just let them know that all of this will be posted on YouTube and they can see it. And as we said before, if there's any questions that don't get answered today, they can email any of us. How is science broken down? It just depends on the grade level. So at sixth grade, it's whatever learning targets are meant for sixth grade. What are the questions we had? And the previous session is what will labs look like? And that's guidance and PD that we'll need to provide teachers to make sure that if they are doing labs, and there's labs that are going to be done remotely, that students have the resources and to be able to do those. What happens if the internet connection goes out during a school class or session? Attendance will be taken, and there are some things that are still being worked out with teachers association and with teaching and learning around grading, around attendance and all of that. But attendance will be taken. It's just, what does that look like? And once we have those details, we'll get that information to you. Does this mean students will have synchronous live lessons for each of the core classes 4 days a week? Will these lessons be recorded for students who cannot be live at the time? Absolutely, and that was one of the reasons that in the spring we couldn't quickly just do everything synchronous, is because we knew there were students that we didn't know what their situation would be like, and we didn't have enough time to reach out to them. So lessons will be live for their classes. And I think as the session goes on right now, we'll be able to explain that a little bit more. And then they will be recorded for those students that, for whatever circumstances, they can't log in at that specific time. They can log in later and learn the lesson for the day. Well, let me see. Are electives not being taught in the coming school year? Electives also help. Yes, there will be Spanish. There will be electives. There will be. I don't know if Sean and Taf, you want to take some of these questions, or we should move on to the next slide to make sure we cover everything and then come back for the questions.
Yeah, there's a couple questions I want to, I think, cover real quick, and then we can. When it says Encore on the schedule, that does mean elective, and so that's just a term we use in Beaverton for in middle school for electives. It's Encore. Our high schools use the term elective, so it could be confusing. I understand that. So also math placement, as we look into math placement, what we're going to do is we're going to email out. We have developed an online math placement test based on the math placement test from last year that the district uses. And usually that's done in March by our tag facilitator. in the district, and that's done at the elementary school, but that wasn't done because we weren't in school late March. And so we will be doing that online in the coming weeks. And so stay tuned for information.
Do you want to go to the next slide and then we'll come back to that? For families deciding between Flex and Stoller option, and Flex is the online platform, online school being offered through Beaverton School District. If a student enrolls in Flex, they are no longer part of their homeschool, in this case, Stoller. Resources and familiarity of homeschool and friends and peers and all of that will no longer be available to your students. There is a social emotional benefit for staying at your homeschool. I want to remind you that we'll be online through November 13th. If after November 13th, if public health concerns are still an issue and the metrics that the governor set forth haven't been met, then we will continue with remote learning. If we do come back to the building, like Mr. Swick said, and there's a hybrid model, the only reason or the biggest reason we offer our kids to be able to be back in the building is to make those connections with teachers, to make those connections with their peers, and to ensure that that we're trying to continue to build relationships. They will not be required to come into the building. So if you're deciding between Flex and that, I will, obviously assure you that Stoller will have and could have more options and resources than Flex online. And I think one of our clever participants got a hold of our slides, and they're making markup. So that's not Mr. Swick playing with them. I think somebody just kind of figured out how to mark up the presentation, but we're just going to keep going. And I think some people are concerned or are having questions like, what is tag testing? What is the SUMA program? What is all of this stuff? And SUMA program is a program for students that are kind of that place into it. That's the tag testing. Tag means talented and gifted. So you take that test and then you place into the SUMA program, and that's all done at the district level. Stoller just happens to be one of the buildings that houses that program. I think Meadow Park and Whitford, does Cedar still have it? I think Cedar might have a SUMA programs. Do you want to go to the next slide, Mr. Swig? One thing as we talk about Flex versus Stoller is the importance of building a community for your students around academic support, the SEL or the social emotional support. And I'll give you the same anecdotal story that I gave the previous group around. I have two kids, one's in a middle schooler and one's at the elementary level. And for my middle schooler, she was able to kind of guide herself and be on task and all of that stuff. But my second grader, now being a third grader, online didn't work for him. So I struggled a lot because to him, I'm mom, I'm not his teacher, and his teacher could only reach out so much online. And after that, it was up to me and Nick, that's his name. And it was tough. It was emotional for both of us, I would say, because like I said, he didn't see me as teacher. So I had to work a lot into building him a community where he still felt connected to other people other than me and his sister. And he was able to have that sense of community. And that's why it's really important for you to reach out either to your students' teachers, to the counselors. Each grade level has a counselor assigned to them. This year this coming year, allocated an extra counselor. And as Mr. Swick and Ms. Doe plan for next year, I can imagine and envision us trying to dedicate that fourth counselor to engaging students who are struggling emotionally around this new platform. I know that we had parents in the spring really concerned about kids who were feeling isolated, especially with quarantine and all of that. So that'll be a big focus for us, and stay connected. Like I said before, this is middle school. It's your students' introduction to middle school, and we want to make sure that it's as complete as possible, regardless of the circumstances. Go on, Mr. Swick. Is that the last one?
One more.
Do you want to take that one, Ms. Joe or Mr. Swick?
Yes.
I'm parched.
So, again, thank you for being here and just listening to our planning, and that we do have your child and your family at the center of all our work and planning. But get excited about first day of school. I know it's hard because every time August comes in regular school year, we all go, there's 1 month left. And so, but we do want to pump it up, and especially for your incoming sixth grader, that we're going to make it the best experience we can given the circumstances. So we're trying to be optimistic and stay positive and model that for all of you. Go shopping for school supplies. Again, there's essentials you need at home, but there's still things that you may need for your child. So a planner, possibly highlighters, their favorite pens and pencils, kind of keep that so that they have some new things that they can use and look forward to. We are, as a district, finding ways to provide kits and such for families who will need some resources. And so we are definitely working on that. And so more information will be sent out if you need that. Create a learning space. So given whatever your home situation is like, if you can create a space wherever that will be in your home, I think that would be very helpful for the routine of your child learning for all the children in your household. Set a schedule that works for your family and try to stick to it. We know, and this is where when we already in August, we're sending out messages to our teacher leaders and to our staff, and knowing that transitioning from summer to fall is hard because students are, especially middle school students, they're on a schedule. And so they stay up late, they sleep in. But this fall, we're on a schedule, as you saw Mr. Swick project for you to see. And so if students are not joining those Zoom live sessions or such, or we're not hearing from your child on Canvas, we're going to reach out to them. And so we have a care team that it's counselors, it's social workers, it's us, that will be really reaching out to your family and your child to make sure that they're engaging on time, or just checking in to see if they need anything, because sometimes kids can't, with the circumstances, log in on time. So if we're able to learn Canvas, we are committing as a district, and we have people at Stoller who are really excited to create tutorials that will be student friendly for your incoming child, but also for families. And so as soon as we have access to any of those tutorial materials, we promise we will send those out, like through School Messenger, through our BSC communications, so that you have access to it and you can kind of get familiar, because as I said, many of you are familiar with Seesaw from last year, depending on what school you fed from, but Canvas is going to be different. But once you learn it, it's really not that bad. And then of course, the first 2 weeks will be critical to all stakeholders. And so again, it's up to the adults. We're going to send that positive message that we want to be inclusive and make sure that every child matters at Stoller. That is such a priority. And so this month we will be having a lot of teachers through Zoom doing professional development with us and setting the tone that it is our responsibility and such to make sure that your child is engaged and still wants to enjoy school.
Just to piggyback a little bit on school supplies, in the previous session, someone asked, will we have a school supply list? And I will tell you absolutely yes. It'll provide a sense of, okay, school's kind of coming back in session. We're just waiting to see a little bit more guidance from teaching and learning and finalize schedules, and then we'll get that out to you. We'll post it as soon as we have that guidance. And now I think we're able to go to questions. Is that we're done, Mr. Swick? Okay. You want to take the math placement? That's where I am, Mr. Swick or Ms. Doe. How will math placement happen or work this coming year?
Yeah, as I said before, there's going to be math placement information coming up in the next couple out in the next couple weeks. That's usually assessments we do in the spring at elementary schools, and that's data they just share with us. But spring was different, and so we have an online version through, I think it is Go Formative, which is a math learning platform that we created an online version of that assessment, and we will be setting up a couple of online times where your student can log in. If you desire, all students are going to be in at Stoller are going to be placed in Math 6-7 next year. And then if you want to take the math placement test, that opportunity will be provided to you. And we'll send information out to all incoming sixth grade families to sign up for a date that works for that assessment.
No. Okay. Thank you. And somebody asked about, will you remain with the same group of kids for all your classes? And that's kind of one of the big kind of requirements for cohorting, to make sure that, you know, if somebody's sick, we know we kind of keep that group together. So yes, the answer to that is yes. can SUMA kids be in class with non-SUMA students? I think in the electives, that may be an option. I don't know if that's going to be an option considering cohorting. So no, Mr. Swick, you're saying no?
In a typical year, that would be the case, based on the state's requirements for cohorting, mixing kids for Encore is really difficult with cohorting and the state's requirements. And so this year at this point, the plan is to keep cohorts all day the same.
Okay, and then I see a hand up. Let's honor the blue hand up. Debbie Taylor.
Yes, I just wanted to ask a quick question on the schedule. Will they be, like, if it says math 10 to 11, will there actually be teachers teaching the children online from 10 to, okay, I just wanted to verify that. I thought I heard that, but thank you very much.
And Gabriela, I saw your hand up. Unmute yourself. There you go.
Is the AVID program still going to happen?
You want to take it, Ms. Doe or Mr. Swick?
Yes, definitely. So we are building in the schedule for AVID students and AVID elective. And again, it's one of priority school-wide also. So yes, it is a priority. Two things I do want to touch on, because we have 7 minutes before we have to conclude this session before we move on to the next session. But I'm sorry, I saw someone refer to Seesaw. I had mentioned Seesaw, but no, Seesaw is only for elementary. And so Canvas is the new learning platform for middle school. The other piece that a lot of parents want to know, but a lot of students want to know, is when do I get my schedule? And that's always the question. That's one of the fun things that you get to look forward to, incoming sixth grader, but then even high school kids ask. So Mr. Swick and I are very busy building a schedule, and even given a normal year, it takes us all summer to build a schedule to make sure that students are in the right classes and getting electives they essentially ranked 1 or 2. So we have all that work to do. So realistically, usually especially when counselors don't come back until the week of professional development in service week. And so when they come back late August, they can help finalize those details, and it will be accessible to students and parents on parent view or student view, likely a few days before the start of the school year. So that's the answer that a question that a lot of people ask.
Okay. I'm gonna mispronounce your name, Taifif. I see your hand up.
It's Tafif. And
Tafif.
Where will we be getting the school supply list?
We'll send an email to your parents, or probably to your email also, once we get that finalized, okay? Let me see. Shrisha?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, so I would like my question is what about the Chromebooks? Like, can we borrow them?
Yep, you will get a Chromebook as a middle schooler. I will figure out how to get it to you. It could be one of those things where you come or your parents come, and I don't know the details yet necessarily, but you won't necessarily come in the building. We'll put it outside for families. They'll pick it up from a cart, and you pick it up, and we'll stagger that. But you'll get a Chromebook, absolutely.
I have another question.
Okay.
Like, what about technology? Like, there's nothing. Yeah, it does not mention in the schedule. Like, yeah.
Oh, Mr. Swig was just giving you an example, but there is a technology class. I don't know, for example, if you'll get it this year or not, but there is technology class at Stoller in most middle schools.
Okay.
Thank you for asking. I'm gonna do Brody, and I'm just trying to go, we have 4 minutes. If we don't get to your question, please, we're saving them, and then please email us. Go ahead, Brody.
Well, this is Brody's mom. Obviously, I'm not Brody. He's in Pennsylvania for the summer visiting his grandparents. But my question, like Gabriella, Brody's an avid student as well. And what does that mean in terms of, I know the hybrid model is supposed to be ideal for them. That's why I did not enroll Brody in Flex. I know Flex is an option starting in November, but, in terms of the CDL, how are they going to incorporate those avid kids and those types of classes?
You want to take it, Mr. Swick or Ms. Doe?
Yeah, and for our AVID, unfortunately, the students would lose an elective, but they gain AVID. And so AVID is Advancement via Individual Determination. It's a class to really build academic skills and support students and provide leadership opportunities. And so for those in AVID, it is their elective. We're looking for once we get the details of the school year up and running, we are definitely looking at starting some clubs and classes and things that kids maybe can engage in a fun way in order to make up for that loss of like an art class or that kind of thing. So
a couple of more questions, and those might be it. Prima.
Hi, just a quick question on the live session. So how many kids will be in each cohort? I mean, do we have any rough numbers that we are seeing already?
For CDL, especially, we're building it as such as students are in person. And so right now, our class sizes are usually in the 30s. PE will be a little bigger because usually there's just more capacity for PE in some Encore classes. But when we go to hybrid, we need to be really mindful because we have to have stable cohorts. And based on what Mr. Swick has shared, we've already been in the building and measuring classrooms and such. And really, the average is about 17 students in a cohort per class.
Oh, thank you. And one other question, just following that. So during these live sessions, if children have some kind of clarifications that they need to carry on their work, will there be any kind of office room sessions or any kind of clarifications sessions that they can have with their teacher?
Absolutely. And we were really working through, and then again, the professional development will really guide our staff. But realistically, we do not want our teachers, it's going to be really hard for them to do direct teaching for a long period of time in the hour. And so we're asking that teachers do some direct teaching, and then students will be put on breakout groups as if they were in a table setting where they can talk with their peers and such. And then teachers and adult staff and such will be available to pop into breakout rooms. And so we definitely want to be aware that we don't want to hear just a teacher presenting, but also it can get a little bit hectic when there's 35 students on a Zoom call. They can't all talk at once until they understand the norms and such, but they also sometimes just want to think with their peers. So breakout rooms will be very common, but we'll be doing training on that. And
okay.
Thank you.
Last question, Nathan Groom. Yeah, I think you're trying to unmute yourself, right? No? Never mind. Okay. Okay. Saartz, S-A-A-R-T-A-K. Yeah, Saartz. Thank you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to confirm, like Mr. Swick already described that. So my understanding is after November 13th, once hybrid students has the flexibility to attending the classes from home for the full year.
Yes, and so CDL is a great on-ramp into the hybrid model because all the curriculum all year at this point is going to be pushed out through Canvas, which is our online platform. And so when we go to hybrid, the students who choose to come in, the cohorts are around 17. It could be that, 7 of those 17 decide, I'm just going to do CDL from home and I'm going to watch the videos later and I'm going to do the work on my own and contact my teacher if I have help or if I need help, or I'm going to hop on synchronously and watch the video as the teacher's teaching the rest of the class. However that's going to work. But there is an opportunity for students to do CDL the entire year and stay with the same teachers and cohort. And we're doing a lot of learning right now to try to make that as seamless as possible when that happens.
Yeah, that's actually good news, because what happened is I personally registered for Flex, and then I came to know that CDL can be the option, which is almost similar like Flex from the perspective of staying back home and then continue doing, because I'm from that group that I'm not very confident about the current situation and kind of scared about the situation, sending my kids out. So if that is the option, then I would rather cancel my Flex registration and stick to my boundary school.
Yeah, and that is the option. So you're right. And we're going to have to end it there just because it takes us a while to record everything and download it and then get ready for the 8th grade. We are excited to welcome our 6th graders. If you're a 6th grader and you're listening right now, we can't wait to see you. We wish we were seeing you in person, but it'll still be a good year. We're going to make it a good year for you. And welcome to Stoller, and we'll be in touch. Remember, we're going to talk to you a lot more about kind of your schedule and what middle school looks like. Have a good evening, and we'll send info on the YouTube video. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you. This was very useful.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was
really helpful.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. You're welcome.
Have a nice evening.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey, thanks for all your help. Appreciate it. One question was, when you do the hybrid and we can go to school, will we be notified, or is there going to be some type of message system?
Yes.
Okay, great.
All of that info will be sent out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.